The Young and the Restless spoilers. Crystal Khalil officially back on Y&R set. Lily goes blonde for GC return. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers reveal that there's some good news to report if you've been missing Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, in Genoa City. Crystal Khalil is officially back on set based on her recent Instagram story, so it looks like this marks the end of her maternity leave. Khalil had a big smile as she posed with a couple of familiar co-stars in her latest photo. Bryton James, Devin Hamilton Winters, and Eric Braeden, Victor Newman, look like they're happy to be reunited with Khalil following her time away. Of course, we can't help but notice that Khalil is sporting a new hairstyle as well. Lily is going blonde for her GC return since Khalil now has longer, lighter locks in the pic. Will Daniel Romalotti Jr., Michael Graziadei, think twice about giving Lily up once he sees her dazzling new look? Time will tell, but Lily will certainly prove she's fabulous as she comes strutting back to town and hopefully makes Daniel pay for cheating on her with Heather Stevens, Vale Bloom. It'll be interesting to see how Lily gets her revenge and ultimately moves on with her life. Daniel deserves to suffer for betraying Lily and hiding his romantic reunion while she's been dealing with all the Maddie Ashby, Lexi Stevenson drama out in California. In recent months, Lily has made Maddie a priority since her daughter had to tackle the trauma of a campus fire and the tragic loss of a beloved professor. However, Lily will eventually come home to Genoa City and show everyone that she's not some fragile little thing that needs to be protected. It'll be fun to see Lily pull off some vengeful power plays and get back down to business at Chancellor Winters, so stick with us for updates on all the excitement. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Crystal Khalil's return will come with some shockers, so don't miss all the action. Are you looking forward to seeing Lily Winters' new look and all the chaos she'll bring when she shows back up in GC? The Young and the Restless spoilers. Wednesday, February 14th, Victor uses Claire to set a trap for Jordan. Nikki taunts Jordan. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers here, and we're ready with plenty of spoilery goodies for Wednesday, February 14th to share. It's Valentine's Day for most, but it looks like Genoa City will be skipping it for a few couples as traps are going to be planned and manipulations will be on tap. Yep, it's a typical Newman special with Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, at the wheel, so there's bound to be a few bumps along the way, mostly in his own family. Something's never changed. Let's grab some popcorn and dive in. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers here, and we're ready with plenty of spoilery goodies for Wednesday, February 14th to share. It's Valentine's Day for most, but it looks like Genoa City will be skipping it for a few couples as traps are going to be planned and manipulations will be on tap. Yep, it's a typical Newman special with Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, at the wheel, so there's bound to be a few bumps along the way, mostly in his own family. Something's never changed. Let's grab some popcorn and dive in. The Young and the Restless spoilers, setting a trap. The Young and the Restless spoilers are used to Victor doing his thing and manipulating others to get his way, but he may go a little too far when he approaches Claire Grace, Haley Aaron, about giving Jordan Howard, Colleen Zenk, a message for him. We expect he's going to offer himself up in some way to draw her out, and Claire will agree because she wants to help and make things right. She also knows he's using her, but she'll accept that. Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinel, may flash some of her mama bear instincts, but they won't do much good when Victor tells her he's doing this for Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, whom he cares about and doesn't care about Claire. We doubt Victoria will do anything but grumble, but maybe she'll make more out of it down the road. The Young and the Restless spoilers, Nikki tempts fate. While Victor's out playing the hero, his newly imprisoned for her own safety wife will be intent on facing Jordan on her own terms, and that could be counterproductive to Victor's plan. How she'll go about it should be interesting, and we can't say we blame her. She's not the type to let herself be locked in a tower and have others fight her battles. If she causes Victor's plans to go awry, things could get interesting if she's not successful. The Young and the Restless Y&R spoilers here, and we're ready with plenty of spoilery goodies for Wednesday, February 14th to share. It's Valentine's Day for most, but it looks like Genoa City will be skipping it for a few couples as traps are going to be planned and manipulations will be on tap. Yep, it's a typical Newman special with Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, at the wheel, so there's bound to be a few bumps along the way, mostly in his own family. Something's never changed. Let's grab some popcorn and dive in. The Young and the Restless spoilers, setting a trap. The Young and the Restless spoilers are used to Victor doing his thing and manipulating others to get his way, but he may go a little too far when he approaches Claire Grace, Haley Aaron, about giving Jordan Howard, Colleen Zenk, a message for him. We expect he's going to offer himself up in some way to draw her out, and Claire will agree because she wants to help and make things right. She also knows he's using her, but she'll accept that. Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinel, may flash some of her mama bear instincts, but they won't do much good when Victor tells her he's doing this for Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, whom he cares about and doesn't care about Claire. We doubt Victoria will do anything but grumble, but maybe she'll make more out of it down the road. The Young and the Restless spoilers, Nikki tempts fate. While Victor's out playing the hero, his newly imprisoned for her own safety wife will be intent on facing Jordan on her own terms, and that could be counterproductive to Victor's plan. How she'll go about it should be interesting, and we can't say we blame her. She's not the type to let herself be locked in a tower and have others fight her battles. If she causes Victor's plans to go awry, things could get interesting if she's not successful. We have a feeling Nikki will end this on her terms. It'll be good for her to put an end to Jordan after she tormented her so much, and it'll help her get over her drinking as she'll have something she can point to with pride. If she doesn't, then we can expect her problems will continue since Victor thinks locking her away from alcohol will solve her problems. Maybe he should try listening at some point. Whose plan will work? Let us know in the comments below and check back with The Young and the Restless spoilers for the latest updates, spoilers, and speculation around. Here we go again. Buckle up, folks, especially if your last name is Newman, because in soaps.com's latest Young and Restless spoilers for Monday, February 12th through Friday, February 16th, Crazy Aunt Jordan is back in action. What's more, Ashley goes from one confrontation to another, Chance goes all out for Summer, and a one-time super couple reconnects. Will their history repeat itself? Read on, and we'll tell you all we know. Restless rant. The crisis that could be Adam's dream come true, plus, drunk Nikki, all tuckered out, the Danny problem, and will, spoiler, expose Daniel's cheating? Young and Restless spoilers week of February 12th, Young and Restless spoilers for Monday, February 12th. In Monday's recap, Victoria learns Nikki went on a bender, and Ashley accuses her family of betrayal. All the money in the world, and still, Victor and Victoria are at a loss as they discuss how best to help Nikki. What are boyfriends for if not to offer a shoulder to cry on? Billy is there for Chelsea yet again when she needs comforting. This promises to be ugly and then some. Ashley accuses her family of betrayal. Wow, Victor's next move will make Victoria's head explode, and maybe yours too. What is he thinking? Young and Restless spoilers for Tuesday, February 13th. In Tuesday's recap, Audra busts Tucker with Ashley, Nick and Phyllis play catch-up, and Summer and Chance kiss. Off Monday's upheaval, Ashley has a heated exchange with Tucker. Chance seems to be recovering nicely from being dumped by Sharon. Now he's all about romancing Summer. Will sparks fly once more when Nick reconnects with Phyllis? Looking at their past in this photo gallery, we're gonna say that the smart money is on yes. Hell, yes. Young and Restless spoilers for Wednesday, February 14th. Just as Victor shares shocking news with Nikki, Claire receives a surprise visitor. Anybody wanna guess that the two are related and, scarier still, related to Jordan? Adam is making all the right moves where he and Sally are concerned these days. His next one? Going out on a limb for her. Still grieving Jack Thornton, and or him being with Elizabeth. Here's the when calls the heart reunion we never saw coming. Young and Restless spoilers for Thursday, February 15th. Victor isn't about to just sit around and wait. Instead, he sounds the alarm and sets his latest plan in motion. Oops. Victor may already be too late, as Jordan has found a new way to target Nikki. If the madwoman keeps it up, she's gonna drive us to drink. Did someone order a painful reminder of their past? No? Well, too bad, 'cause that's what's in store for Ashley. Young and Restless spoilers for Friday, February 16th. Jordan's reign of terror must be coming to a head because Victor is so desperate that he goes to Jack and demands answers. Will his longtime nemesis have the intel that the Black Knight needs? When Billy and Devin engage in a power struggle, we're betting on Neil's son. Billy's list of missteps is just too long for him to be considered a safe bet. See for yourself here. Jordan messed with the wrong mama now. Victoria vows to protect Claire at all costs. No way is she gonna lose her daughter twice. The Young and the Restless recap for Tuesday, February 13th, 2024. Nick walked into society and headed to the bar, where he spotted Chance and Summer laughing together at a table across the room. Summer showed Chance some photos from one of her favorite beach vacations, and Chance mused that it was gorgeous. She agreed, but he cooed that he hadn't been talking about the beach. She asked if travel was his thing, and he rattled off a list of his stints in Iraq, Las Vegas, and Majorca. Chance added that he'd gone to Australia when he'd found out his father wasn't dead, and he imagined Summer knew how that felt. Summer was fascinated by the wild adventures he'd experienced, and she wondered if he ever missed those days. He took her hand in his and proclaimed that he was happy right where he was. Phyllis joined Nick at the bar and crowed that Summer and Chance were together, just as Phyllis had predicted. Nick pointed out that Chance had just ended things about 5 minutes earlier, but Phyllis contended that Summer and Chance were obviously together. Nick shared that he'd suspected Summer had a crush on Chance, but he'd also known she had too much integrity to make a move while Chance had been with Sharon. Phyllis was happy that Summer and Chance were having fun together, and Nick conceded that he hadn't heard their daughter laugh like that in a long time. Phyllis believed that Summer deserved long-lasting happiness after everything Phyllis had put her through. Phyllis added that she deserved her own happiness, too, even if other people didn't think so. Phyllis figured that the happiness gods were always smiling upon Nick, and she asked what was going on with him. Phyllis noted that it'd been a while since she and Nick had touched base, and she inquired whether he was happy. Nick recognized that Phyllis got into grooves where she would put all her focus on one thing, like Summer's love life, Diane Jenkins, or dodging the law, but he doubted his happiness was on that list. Phyllis acknowledged that he'd been very mad at her after she'd died, and she'd been nervous to talk to him because his opinion mattered to her. She argued that he hadn't been blowing up her phone trying to get in touch with her, either. Nick countered that he'd had a lot going on. Phyllis swore that she cared about him and always would. Phyllis recalled that she and Nick had been in and out love many times, and the most amazing thing they'd done had been to create an incredible girl. Phyllis reasoned that they would always share the bond of being Summer's parents, no matter what happened between them, and she ordered him to stop stalling. Nick insisted that he was in a good place, but he couldn't help but worry about Phyllis. She suggested that he buy her a drink while she filled him in on why she was so deliriously happy. "This I gotta hear," Nick replied. Summer noticed her parents were in the restaurant, and she told Chance not to look. He immediately looked over at the bar and asked if it was a problem, noting that she was tight with her dad and had made peace with her mom. Summer groaned that her folks took perverse pleasure in knowing all her business. Chance empathized, since even though his mom didn't live in town, Nina made it a point to know everything whether she was near or far. Chance reasoned that at least he and Summer had parents who cared, and he couldn't be at fault with Nick and Phyllis because they'd raised an incredible woman. Summer resolved to start practicing his silver lining mentality. Chance pointed out that she could practice right then, since her parents were headed their way. Phyllis and Nick approached Summer and Chance's table, and the group exchanged awkward pleasantries. Phyllis marveled that she'd wondered if she was dreaming when she'd seen the young couple there, and Summer looked stricken. Chance politely invited Phyllis and Nick to join them. Nick declined, noting that Summer and Chance seemed to be having a good time. Nick steered Phyllis away, and Chance remarked that he'd been anticipating that Nick would pull out old class photos of Summer with nerdy hair. Summer considered themselves lucky that they hadn't needed to sit there while her mom made subtle comments. She glanced over at the bar and commented that it was strange seeing her parents having a peaceful drink together. Chance questioned whether Nick and Phyllis were on a date, but Summer was sure they'd simply run into one another. "To us," Phyllis toasted, and she thanked Nick for forgiving her for the debacle with Diane and Jeremy. She admitted that she wasn't sure she would have been able to do the same for him. Nick lectured that what Summer had gone through had changed her forever, and she shouldn't have had to go through it. He continued that it had been very hard for him to let it go, but he wanted to do so for all their sakes. Phyllis swore that she would regret what she'd done for the rest of her life. Phyllis added that she would also be grateful to Nick every minute of her life for getting their daughter through it. Nick figured that if Summer and Daniel had been able to get over it, he should be able to follow their lead. Phyllis recognized that he was giving her more credit than she deserved. Nick considered her kids to be amazing people, but he encouraged her to give herself credit for making changes to try to become a better person. He found it to be interesting timing, since he was also choosing to believe the same thing about Adam, who was making decisions to better himself. Phyllis appreciated that Nick didn't think she was a lost cause, but she balked at being compared to Adam. She wondered if Nick ever wished he was more like Adam, since it had to be difficult for Nick to always be looked at as the righteous Newman because it didn't leave room for mistakes. Nick reminded her that he'd bought her a drink to talk about her, not to analyze him and convince him he was a wannabe bad boy. Phyllis pushed to know what had happened between him and Sally. Nick called Sally smart, beautiful, and unpredictable, and he doubted Phyllis found it hard to believe he'd go for that type. Phyllis thought he was deflecting, and she proposed they be straight with one another. Nick confessed that he still cared about Sally, and it had killed him when their relationship had ended. Nick explained that Sally hadn't been able to let go of her feelings for Adam, and Phyllis was taken aback that Sally had chosen Adam over Nick. Phyllis inquired how Nick was doing post-breakup, and he reported that he was back on track, focusing on family and work. He wondered if she was sticking to her life changes, and she indicated that things were going well. Phyllis hinted that she thought she'd found peace with a certain someone, and Nick guessed she was talking about Danny. Phyllis giddily nodded, and Nick voiced surprise that Danny felt comfortable with her, considering their history. Phyllis asserted that Danny had seen that she'd changed and how hard she was trying. Nick hoped it worked out for her. Meanwhile, Summer recounted a time when she'd told Harrison that he'd had enough cookies before bedtime, and the boy had gotten mad at her, threatened to waste toothpaste, and stormed out of the room. She continued when she'd checked on him later, she discovered that he'd gone straight to bed, and he'd looked so sweet that she hadn't known if she should scold him for talking back or thank him for not wasting toothpaste. Chance shared a story about Dominic seeing a drum set in a store window, and when Chance had refused to buy it, the tot had thrown a world-class tantrum. Chance recalled that he'd told his son that he'd never get what he wanted by acting like that, and Dominic had turned into the sweetest kid on the face of the earth. Summer inquired whether Chance had gotten his son the set, but Chance explained that he hadn't been about to spend a dozen car payments on something the boy would lose interest in after a week. Chance bemoaned that there was nothing like getting outsmarted by a kid who didn't reach his knees, but he figured they could use those moments as fodder to embarrass their children when their kids had kids of their own. Summer wondered if it was payback for what they'd put their parents through, and she gazed over at Nick and Phyllis. Chance asked how Summer and Kyle were doing with their co-parenting situation. She replied that they were civil, and she confided that she was worried about her ex. Summer sensed that Kyle felt disillusioned after Jack had kept her on at Marchetti but had let Kyle go, and Kyle had since been passed up for the co-CEO slot twice. Summer griped that Kyle kept making dumb moves, like getting involved with Audra, but all she could do was watch from a distance and hope for the best. Chance wondered if Summer regretted that her marriage hadn't worked out. Summer insisted that she would always care about Kyle, but she'd realized regret was wasted energy. She reasoned that life was hard, and people disappointed one another, but the best she could do was own up to her mistakes and try not to make the same ones again. Chance said he liked the way she thought. Summer inquired whether Chance and Abby had found a comfortable balance with Dominic after their ugly breakup. Chance admitted that he'd been hurt to be betrayed like that, and he'd needed time to get past it, but he'd learned from it. He figured that no one could force love, since hearts were unpredictable and uncontrollable, and logic played no part. He agreed with Summer's statement that there was no point to feeling regret, since it got them nothing but nowhere. Summer grabbed his hand and said she liked the way he thought, too. Chance helped Summer put on her coat, and she thanked him for dinner. He thanked her for a terrific and interesting evening, and he said he'd liked learning more about the way she thought and felt. "Right back at you," she replied, and they kissed. Across the room, Phyllis asked if Nick was as happy for Summer and Chance as she was. Nick grumbled that it was hard to see Summer start a new relationship that soon. Nick conceded that Summer was a grown woman and mother with an amazing career, but he could never look at her like she wasn't a little girl who needed him to protect her. Phyllis saw in his eyes how proud he was of Summer, and he lamented that he'd never be okay seeing their daughter kiss a man. Phyllis toasted to finally finding their happy places, and they clinked their glasses together. In Tucker's hotel suite, Tucker and Audra had sex. She asked if he was still glad he'd chosen her, and he breathlessly replied that she'd made a pretty good case for herself. Later, they spooned in bed, and Tucker gently unwrapped his arm from a sleeping Audra to check his phone. He saw Ashley's text message about needing to see him, and he looked wistful. At the athletic club, Ashley sipped a martini and ignored a call from Tracy. Moments later, Ashley's phone pinged with a message from Tucker, asking where she was. She replied that she was downstairs. Tucker softly asked if Audra was awake, but she didn't respond. "I love you," he whispered, and he kissed her shoulder. Ashley became agitated as she heard Tucker's angry words from the bistro in Paris in her head. She sent him another message, warning that she'd be gone in another 5 minutes. Tucker appeared and coolly asked what she wanted. She insisted that they talk in private, and she suggested that they go up to his room. He responded that they would have the conversation right there, or she could forget it. Ashley announced that she'd wanted to see Tucker to tell him that she'd never been more disgusted by anyone's actions than she was with his. She accepted the fact that she'd married him, but she snarled that she was eternally embarrassed and ashamed that she'd ever loved him. Ashley sarcastically commended Tucker for outdoing himself by bribing the entire restaurant staff on a different continent to make her think she was cuckoo. Tucker surmised that the staff had backed up his version of their argument, and Ashley spat that she knew the truth. Ashley vowed to protect herself and everyone she loved from Tucker's poison, and she bitterly congratulated him on making her own family doubt her. She warned that there would be a lot of pain headed his way, but he shouldn't blame her but look in the mirror instead. Tucker thought it sounded like a threat. Ashley mentioned the campaign she'd been on to get him and Devin to reconcile, and she declared that it was done. She pledged to do everything in her power to make sure Devin was cut out of Tucker's life forever. Ashley ranted that she couldn't believe she'd ever let herself feel any guilt about how she'd created Tucker's rage because of his intense heartbreak. Tucker laughed and said she really was delusional if she doubted the heartbreak she'd caused. Ashley hissed that she couldn't break what he didn't have, and he didn't have a heart. She surmised that his rage in Paris had been about his inability to control and monopolize her, and something had happened when she'd realized he was to blame. Ashley revealed that all the guilt she'd had was gone, and it had been replaced with sheer and utter contempt for him. Tucker flatly asked if she was finished, since it was his turn. Audra woke up and found herself alone in bed. She called out for Tucker but received no response. Meanwhile, Tucker swore on the soul of his grandchild that he hadn't bribed, threatened, or done anything to coerce the waitstaff to get them to say what he wanted. He swore that if they'd backed up his story, it was because it was the truth. Tucker stated that he was saddened that Ashley couldn't just be satisfied by walking away and instead had to go scorched earth by making up ugly fiction about him. He encouraged her to seek professional help to figure out what was going on with her. Audra suddenly appeared and sidled up next to Tucker. Audra mentioned that she'd woken up, and Tucker hadn't been there. Audra huffed that the last thing she'd expected had been to find him with the woman who'd put him through such hell. Ashley realized that Audra had been the reason Tucker had been unable to have a private conversation in his room. Audra asked if that was a problem, and Ashley scoffed at the idea of being shocked that the two were sleeping together. Ashley pointed out that Audra was just one on a very long list of Tucker's hookups, but it seemed a little soon, and she questioned whether the papers had even been drawn up yet. Tucker reminded Ashley that she'd been the one who'd dumped him, and she hadn't put up a fight when he'd started annulment proceedings. He asked whether she'd expected him to sit alone in his room, pining over her. Ashley declared that Tucker had become Audra's problem, and she wished Audra luck. Ashley pondered whether Audra had been sleeping with Tucker the same time she'd been sleeping with Kyle. Classy, Ashley snarked, adding that Tucker and Audra deserved one another. Ashley walked out. Audra and Tucker retreated to his suite, and she asked what the hell had just happened. He apologized that she'd had to witness that Ashley was further gone than either of them had realized. He recounted that Ashley had heard the truth from several witnesses in Paris, but she refused to believe it and seemed intent on painting him as a villain. Tucker suspected that something was very wrong with Ashley, but Audra snapped that she didn't care what Ashley thought about anything. Audra wondered how Tucker had managed to get out of bed with her to meet with his ex-wife. Tucker admitted that Ashley had sent him a text message, saying she'd needed to see him immediately. Tucker defended that he'd only met with Ashley to tell her he was officially moving on and not because he'd wanted to hear what she had to say. Tucker revealed that Ashley had been fine with ending things with him, but she'd gone a step further by threatening to keep Devin and Dominic out of his life forever. Tucker added that it wouldn't work, since he'd be damned if he let Ashley keep him out of his son and grandson's lives. Audra inquired whether he'd told Ashley about their relationship. Tucker replied that Audra had taken care of that rather effectively, and Audra wondered if he would have told Ashley if Audra hadn't shown up. Absolutely, he affirmed. He proclaimed that Ashley was old news, and Audra was his future. Ashley returned home and poured a glass of water. Her thoughts drifted to Tucker's version of their argument in Paris, and she crumpled into a chair, trembling. Tracy entered the room and asked if her sister was okay. Ashley whimpered that she didn't know what was happening to her.